What's up, guys? It's me, the AOLE Double X Prince, here to review Captain America, the first Avenger. One more, and then I get to the actual Avengers and conclude Phase 1. Phase 2 will be coming soon just as well. But let's just start off by saying that this is probably one of the best ones in the MCU. One of my personal favorites. Now, a lot of people like to say that this movie is overrated simply because it's part of the Captain America trilogy, and those other ones are classics and this one's not as much. And to an extent, they're right. This movie is, like, in comparison to the future Captain America movies that we get, this is a step down, but still a really good movie. It's probably one of my favorites for sure in the MCU. But this movie is directed by Joe Johnston, not the Russo brothers yet, not quite yet there. But this guy's actually had like a pretty interesting schedule, like a good variety of movies. He's got in Jumanji, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, and The Rocketeer. So pretty mixed bag. Like probably my favorite out of those three I just mentioned is probably Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. So he had some good movies, but he's also had Jurassic Park 3, which yeah, enough said there. He definitely had kind of a vision for this movie, but obviously keeping him around was probably gonna like suck for the future movies, especially since the way this movie ends. But basically, Captain America's been frozen for the past couple of years, and they finally find his body. Shield finds his body, and but first we get to see his origin story. Basically, how Chris Evans, Captain America, or Steve Rogers became Captain America. And basically the plot is that Chris Evans, not Chris Evans, I gotta say this correctly, but Steve Rogers always wanted to join and fight in war, but he never quite did. They never took him serious because of his size. He was a skinny little dude, and let me just say that CGI worked well. Like, it's pretty impressive what they've done. How well CGI still holds up, but this was basically his story of how he's always been picked around, and Bucky was just like the guy who always like helped him out, but eventually he does get a chance to be part of the army for once, and in that we get introduced to like a bunch of newer characters. I'm trying to find like some names real quick here. Just alright, I think I got all the this movie, basically he meets a dude who wants to help him be part of the part of the army, and be part of a soldiers, but they never took him serious, so they gave him like this like super serum, basically, to clarify much easier for you guys, super steroids, and he basically becomes the big Captain America that we all know and love. Dr. Abraham Eisenkind, that's his name. Yeah, I love this character. He was probably one of my favorite characters, one of the more underrated characters in there. Dominic Stark Dominic Cooper who played Howard Stark. He was great as a young Howard Stark, basically Tony Stark's father. He did a great job. He did a fantastic job, to say the least. This cast is just pretty good. Tommy Lee Jones as like the freaking Chester Phillips. He was great. Again, Bucky was good, but he was hardly in this movie. But more on that in the future movies. But of course, the biggest standout for me was Hallie Atwell as Peggy Carter. Easily the biggest standout in this story. Basically, a woman who feels intimidating and is tougher than most of the guys in the army, but she clicked well with Steve Rogers. The chemistry was there. It just made sense. It doesn't make sense when he goes for his niece, her niece, my bad. But yeah, this chemistry really worked. Basically, an awkward dude that just likes a woman um who really didn't care about relationships, but she really never met a nice dude until, of course, Steve Rogers, and this it worked. Now, even though he stopped a dude to that works for the Red Skull to get his hands on this stuff that made him as strong as he is. They still didn't take him serious. They still treat him like a dork. It still sucked. He was basically, I mean, he was a celebrity technically, as basically being in movies, being a character, just like a gimmick. He just had to do parades. He had to fake punch Hitler like 147 times. Um, and yeah, that was basically his life, and he hated. But he wished he could do something bigger, and eventually he just stood out and just said, "Fuck it, we lost a lot of soldiers. It's time for me to go help them." One of them happened to be Bucky, and he really wanted to send simply for that reason, which explains the fake love story that's between these two. But I still remember this basically him being like, I thought you were dead," and then Bucky going, "I thought you were smaller," which is funny. Um, this this just worked well. Eventually, this is when they took Steve Rogers serious and became the famous Captain America that we all know and love again. He's in the army. He's basically a superhero in the war, fighting Red Skull, who was basically the super villain version of Adolf Hitler. And in this movie, basically, he just trying to stop Red Skull's plans. And by the way, Hugo Weaving, it was fantastic in this movie. He was threatening, he was intense, he was intimidating, and people talk about him coming back. Like I'm actually curious what would happen if they bring him back, because technically there's a theory going that he's actually not dead. He's just in the stars after being part of the Tesseract, which the Tesseract plays a huge part. And eventually, like, this like was just such a like crazy moment of how Steve Rogers would do anything for his world. And it shows the love story with Peggy Carter and Steve Rogers at the end, with the whole story of him shoot this plane is about to crash, so he keeps it in the ocean just in case, like, because it had like a missile in it, and it was gonna blow his city, and it was gonna suck for him. But he took that sacrifice. But it was just sad seeing that Peggy Carter and Steve Rogers never had their dance, which plays off in Age of Ultron down the road. But the chemistry worked. Basically, if you think about it, now this is 2018, so I'm guessing some of you guys have seen this movie already. But Wonder Woman is basically similar to this, only reverse sex. And basically, Captain America froze, and he was done. We all thought he was dead. It turned out he was still alive, but more on that later. One of the biggest markout moments for me in this movie was that little kid playing with his friends, but he paints the trash can lid, as like the Captain America shield. It was just a cool moment with the patriotic music. Captain America was a favorite of mine growing up, but he wasn't like a top 20 yet until, like, further movies down the road. But this was just a great movie, just basically showing the American hero of how an underdog became the top dog. And it was just a great delivery, and it connected with the MCU perfectly, with the Tesseract being a huge part of this movie. But the movie wasn't quite over. I still remember I was like, all right, movie's over. End credits, out of the credits rolling, and then we see Steve Rogers in an office. He's like, where the hell am I? And this lady walks up and says, you've been asleep for a very, very long time. And then he doesn't know what's going on, but he escapes. He's in basically SHIELD headquarters, and he's in New York, but New York is not what it seems to be. It's more of the New York we all know today, and he's just confused. And him experience everything, just watching everything like this, was a cool markout moment. I really thought it was cool. And then at the end, Nick Fury comes back like, "You been asleep, Captain, for so long. Anything you remember?" And he talks about how he had a date, and it sucks, because I really feel bad because not only was Peggy Carter really hot, but she was a true love for Steve, and I really felt that connection. Granted, we made fun of Bucky and Steve, who, unfortunately, Bucky dies in this movie, but it comes to play in the next movie, but more on that later. At the end, we show Uncle Sam poster like this, and then the credits roll. And at the time, again, end credit scenes weren't that big until this one, but this is probably the most marked out end credit scene ever. Basically, it's a scene from the first Avengers movie of Steve hitting a punching bag, and then he breaks it because of his anger. Nick Fury comes in, trouble sleeping, Captain. I've been asleep for so long, and he's basically like, "What the hell am I doing here? What am I doing here, but still alive in the future? What am I supposed to be doing here? Are you just trying to use me as a weapon to take over the world?" And Nick Fury says, "I'm trying to save it." And then we play a full trailer of the movie Avengers. We see Loki. We see Hawkeye, who I forgot to bring up in Thor, which I'm sorry. Whoops. Rookie mistake. But yeah, Hawkeye. They show Scarlet Witch. Like, oh yeah, she's back from Iron Man 2. That's great. We see Thor, Iron Man, and then we see Mark Ruffalo. He wasn't the Hulk, but it was just like great. And then we just see Tony talking to Thor. It was just like that little moment was just great, and then we see the banter of the Avengers. So it was great just seeing everything just play out just to set up this one movie, and eventually further down more movies to come. At first, I thought it was gonna be a one-time thing, but eventually it was just depending on how big this movie was gonna be. Yeah, I remembered 2012. It was either this or The Dark Knight Rises. It was like a big year for superhero movies in 2012, but 2011 was a perfect year to get people hyped for it. Both Thor and Captain America: The First Avenger worked. They were perfectly well done movie. I really enjoyed them. Highly recommend this one. So next up is The Avengers. I can't wait to talk about this one. I have a lot to say about this one. It's my favorite. Spoiler alert. But yeah, that's it. It's me, the ALE Double X Prince. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. And until then, I'm out.